proud of him for that, aren't you?
Yeah. Okay, let's get going. Can I get a motion to come back into session?
Motion to come back in session?
I need a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, back in session. Board Member Pate, you want to read the third case?
Docket number OC 19011, an application has been filed requesting a side yard setback variance for a proposed structure located at 1522 Riverside Drive, Prospect, Kentucky.
All right, good morning again. Amy Alvey, Oldham County Planning. As Mr. Payton stated, this is another side yard setback variance for 1522 Riverside Drive in Prospect. The property is zoned CO1 Conservation Residential and is approximately 0.229 acres. This is the aerial view of the property. Again, this is just an overlay. This is not survey quality to show basically just an overview or overlay of the lines. So you'll see the subject property highlighted there in red. This is shows that the property is zoned CO1 Conservation. Again, this is the Ohio River there. This is the area view, shows buildings and structures and driveways. There is no previous site history regarding this property. Excuse me. The home is currently being elevated as part of the FEMA grant to raise structures out of the flood hazard area, as similar to the previous case. The applicant is requesting a side yard setback variance for proposed addition to the existing home. The home is currently 8.1 feet from the property line. The owner would like to enclose the exterior entry stairs, which would be approximately 6.1 feet from the left property line. So this is the survey that was provided. I'll go into a zoomed in version here. Again, the property lines here are in red. The existing footprint of the house is highlighted there in purple. And they have this existing bump out here, which is what they call the pump house. And then they want to enclose this area. The original request was to have the home 5.1 feet from the left property line, but the applicant was able to modify their plans and shift the house to the right by 1 foot. So again, this is this hashed area here is the subject area of the variance. So this is the outline in blue. So that is the proposed. The existing footprint is in purple. So you'll see outlined in blue, they shifted the house to the right about a foot to encompass this little bump out. This is a legal non-conforming structure. It was in existence prior to the zoning regulations. So as long as they stay in the existing footprint, they're good. So there's no need for a variance on this side because they're staying within that existing 1 foot little bump out there. But they do need a variance over here because they are increasing that setback.
Does that mean if the line was enclosed to where the bump out is, that it wouldn't have to have a variance?
Correct. So if it was just gonna go straight here,
Yes.
this area here, that would be, the side yard is already existing to that point.
Thank you.
The applicant stated that due to the height of the flood elevation, that by having so many stairs on the outside of the home to use daily for access, it presents unsafe challenges such as weather, flooding, and lighting. By enabling the additional footage, allows the owner to have a safe, well-lit, climate-controlled area for entry and exit. That is from the applicant's justification statement. This is the front elevation of the home. And I'll show you some the existing home right now. But basically, this area here is the existing home, and that's what they're elevating. So this is what's being raised. This is the area of the addition. This is the rear elevation. So this is the view from the rear side. Left side elevation. Right side elevation. So this is the applicant's property. So as I was saying before, they're taking the home and elevating it. So this point is this, whoops, point. So that's what's being raised. And what they're wanting to do is have the stairwell for the entry into this upper level. They want to have it enclosed in concrete block. So this is the applicant's property. This is the north view on Riverside Drive. This is the north adjoining property. So the applicant's property is here. This is the north side yard. So this is the side yard in between the existing driveway and the adjoining. This is the east adjoining, so this is across the street. This is the south view. This is the south adjoining property. This is the south side yard. So this bump out here is the bump out that's shown on the plan. So originally they were wanting to go 3 feet over, and then, you know, obviously up, and this is where the stairs would be. But they were able to shift the house 1 foot over and keep it in the same footprint going to the right. So now they're only basically asking for 2 feet on this side. So in summary, the applicant is requesting a side yard setback variance. The required side yard is 15 feet. The proposed side yard is 6.1 feet. So they're asking for a variance of 8.9 feet. Be happy to answer any questions.
Amy, using the measurements that they already have a bump out there that was previously approved, how much farther is it past the original bump out? Do you know?
So they're going 2 feet above and beyond this bump out here.
Okay.
So it's 8.1 feet now. So they want to bump out 2 additional feet and enclose. And it's not letting me draw very good.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah. So again, this 1.3 foot bump out here, they shifted the house to the right and picked up an additional foot. Because originally they wanted to be 5.1 feet, but they were able to shift the house and keep it in this, you know, pick up that extra foot there.
Amy, would you please go back to the photographs that show the images or the drawings?
Of the home?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Proceed one more, please. One more, please. I'm seeing staircases sticking way off of this that doesn't seem to be making sense to me as I'm looking at these drawings. So like this is a left elevation that's depicting a stair system is projecting way outward. Am I missing something, or
I think you may ask the applicant for clarification on that. I believe that there's a spiral staircase. And I thought there was a note on here somewhere, right? Is it gonna be, they'll ask you in a minute, but is that the spiral staircase? Or is it gonna be stairs like that? You can, when he comes up and after you swear him in, he can clarify that for you.
Go back to the dimensions of the bump out. Keep going. Right there, stop right there.
I think you want something like that.
That one.
It's 8.1 feet from the corner of the bump out to the property line.
I get it. They're picking up
2 feet.
1 foot on the other side, asking for 2 feet, so 6.1 is, I get it. Okay. And the bump out is 5.3, right? The bump,
It's
Correct.
5.3 feet extending from the existing home, correct?
all right. Anything else for Amy? All right,
Chairman, I do just want to put in the record of this case, I don't want to be repetitive from the first case, but this again is part of the FEMA grant. These lots are legal non-conforming lots. They're attempting to elevate their structures above the floodplain so that they reduce the flood risk. And actually, I want to just show you a picture of, sorry, wrong way. Just so you get an idea, there's a good picture here of an adjoining property owner that has elevated their structure. This one on the right with the clay-colored, yes, and that was one of them that was elevated, I think, 2 years ago. So that's basically what happens when they elevate. They've got that much, all of that block foundation is above the floodplain now, and so their living space is in the, I believe is hardy plank, that bluish area.
Jim, when they do that and complete the project, the first floor living space is eliminated?
Sometimes it is, yeah, because in this particular applicant's case, they're all in the floodplain. So they're lifting all of their living space above the floodplain. Sometimes, though, you lose some space depending on the project. But all the living space will be out of the floodplain, 2 feet above the floodplain, actually.
Jim, just for clarification, that can't be inhabited as bedrooms or anything like that? It can only be used as storage in
That's
that
correct.
case?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't have mechanicals underneath there. They've got to accommodate all their HVAC units somewhere. They've all got to be within the setback. And that's why this one is requesting a variance. They have to build stairs. The staircases are obviously large.
you can go back one shot.
This one?
Nope,
This one?
no, I want to see the stairs of the adjoining property owner. Right there. So this one, because it's not covered, repeat again what you said to me last case or a couple of cases ago, where being a covered structure.
That has nothing to do with stairs. That's only a porch.
Okay, all right.
So the neighbor's property, his property, so this is his bump out of his little porch landing there.
Yeah.
So his house at its closest point is 7 feet
Okay.
from the side property line. So they want to be 6.1 feet. So it'll be similar. The neighbors is 7 feet, they want 6.1. Fire code, there has to be 5 feet of separation between buildings.
So the stairs can be within the, within the setback? Like he was asking about those stairs can be within the setback?
No, they should not be within the setback. I can't tell where his stairs, if his stairs are right here and it's within this little piece there. Again, these are all legal non-conforming structures that
Right.
were built prior, so I don't have a survey to tell you where his stairs are at.
No, I'm just trying to understand the rules. as it
Covered
applies.
or otherwise,
Yep.
those stairs, if built today, would encroach into the setback and need a variance.
Absolutely, because this whole house is only 13 feet from the side, so,
Okay.
yes.
All right, all right. All right, anything else? Okay,
I'm sorry, go back to the one you were just on, where we had looking at the neighbors. Right there. So when I'm looking at this, and you see this patio is defined, right?
Patio, yes.
That's current or proposed?
You'll have to clarify with the applicant. I'm
Okay,
not
just
sure.
leave that up if you would then.
Yeah.
Patios can be, because they're on the ground, I think that's on the ground, they don't have to meet the setback.
Right, they can go up to the property line, concrete, just like a sidewalk.
Yeah, if it's on the ground.
Driveway.
That's what I'm questioning. Is that on the ground or is that
all right,
Not sure.
going back to the stairs that Ron was asking about?
all right. Anything else for Amy? Thank you. All right, if we can have the applicant come forward. Morning,
Good morning.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
and state your name and address.
James McFarland, 1522 Riverside Drive.
All right, James. You want to justify the project?
Yes, to start with, I'm just asking for 2 feet variance going off the side of that bump out, which will give me 6 feet of setback, a little over 6 feet. As Amy stated, in most every instances, she's covered everything very well. The bump out on the right side, we figured if we could go to that distance out, that would help move the house farther away from the property line on the left side. There is going to be an enclosed staircase in that area, and due to the nature of the room that takes up, we figured to put it over there as opposed to putting it in the footprint of the house, because with going that high up, it eats up so much space, we wouldn't have any house left inside. Wouldn't be any space. The house is only 32 feet deep and 24 feet wide. Question one of y'all had about where it's marked on the patio, that is concrete, and that's been existing before I bought the house. I don't know what else I can add that she hasn't already stated, so I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, questions for James?
I have one. The plans say the spiral staircases are not shown. Are there exterior spiral staircases being proposed?
There's one exterior spiral staircase now that's existing there that's not shown. There's no spiral staircases that's going on the new structure.
Thank you. I saw the note for that on the plan, but
Yeah, originally there was,
Okay.
and that's been changed.
So on that elevation then there, on this left side elevation, then that, the stair or the wraparound porch on this side sticks out how far?
Right now, you're looking at the right side elevation.
It says left.
It sure does.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Name and address?
Palmer Cole, 7400 South Park Place, Louisville, Kentucky, 40222.
Palmer, what's your relationship to the application?
Contractor.
Contractor, okay. All right, go
This
ahead.
actually is the left side elevation. It's just you're seeing where, it's kind of hard to explain. If we saw the right side, that's actually showing off the back side of the house, but it is on the right side coming down.
So when you're standing on the road looking at the house, is
Right.
it right or left?
If you're standing on the road, you're going to see it on the left, because this is actually, it's kind of hard. If you're looking from the river side, let's say from the river side, let's go back to the, can we go back to the one, how do we?
Because to me, that, it says left, but I
That's
think
on the
it's
drive,
right.
that is the drive, that
There
was
you
the
go.
driveway side of the house.
Here you go. So there's the right side elevation. So those are the deck stairs coming down to a landing and then returning back.
That's not the driveway side.
Right.
That we're looking at now.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I would call it, it's only the right side if you're standing in the river.
Yes.
Right.
And
See what,
that
see
wasn't
what,
understanding.
I'm just trying to make sure we're clear.
Yeah.
Stairs are from the back.
Okay, so can we go back to the other side? Oh, wait, go back right there. Okay, so now up on the right side of this picture, that's the part going out the front. And so I can see that, but that wraps clear around the opposite side, the driveway side. There, forget left and right. The driveway side, how far does that driveway side stick out?
Off of the
There.
footprint of the house?
Nope, the picture you were just on.
Grab the plan so we can tell them the dimension.
Are you talking about this?
Well, but on the other side. Go to
Talking about
what's
this?
labeled as left side. Nope, wrong picture. There, right there.
He's talking
Because that's the driveway side. That
How far
part,
does that stick out over the driveway?
about 5 foot.
It's 4, I think it's 4 foot.
Yeah, you got the plan right there.
Where'd it go?
Yeah. 4 foot 10 and a half.
Okay. Then back to Mr. Funk's question, is that stairwell on the back there, is that behind the house in its entirety or not?
Behind the house in its entirety.
The stairway,
That's
as we are looking at it, is on the riverside.
Correct.
Yeah, the river would be
Yeah.
over here. Is where-
So this wraparound deck is then protruding off of the building 4 foot 10 inches.
On the driveway side
So-
only. It's not on what we're calling the left side.
Correct.
If
Right.
you're looking at it from the street, it doesn't go on the left side at all.
Okay.
So then if I understand this correctly, which is a trifle confusing, the concrete enclosure is a two-sided enclosure. When viewing it from the road, we're gonna see concrete. When viewing it from the road down the left-hand side, there's a concrete block enclosure. So when we're standing at the river looking up, we'll see the staircase being open. And in essence, you're trying to protect your staircase from the elements because of the number of stairs that you're going to have, but it's not fully enclosed.
No,
Well-
it is fully enclosed.
There's 2 sets of stairs here that we're talking about. So show him, put that on the screen there so you can see that. Yeah. So you can see where the elevator shaft is, then you've got the staircase that's enclosed. Behind that staircase that's enclosed, there's a separate staircase
That'd be
that's
an-
exterior that goes behind that.
Instead of having the spiral staircases that are shown in the drawing.
Right.
That makes much more sense to me by seeing the floor plan.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That helps.
So we have 2 sets of stairs.
Correct.
So,
That one is fully enclosed. Sorry, Rob, go
No,
ahead.
you're fine, go ahead.
That's correct.
Did I said my piece?
Okay, so.
It's a lot of stairs, but it's because of trying to keep it safe. Is if there's a fire or something, have to have multiple ways out.
So-
Another reason for having the deck come around to the front of the house, so you don't have to jump out 18+ feet off the first floor living space. You can get out on the deck and go around if need be or possible.
They have a family member that's a fireman, so that's where this is all kind of come into play.
All right, so said differently, is this a fair statement? The entirety of everything you're now going to build out and requires the additional variance will be in that area that you're going additional, will either be stairs or elevator, and you need that there and enclosed because it's so high up to get out of the floodplain. You're not building living room space, bedroom space, bathrooms, nothing. It's
No.
just for getting up as high as you're gonna have to get. That's the only reason without the variance is required, because you're elevating the house to get out of the floodplain, and this is what you have to do to accommodate getting to that space safely.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Now that I see the drawing, I can say that
Yeah,
statement.
yeah.
Sorry for the confusion.
Oh, that's all right. We're trying to help you too.
I appreciate it.
All right.
So that I understand, are you also in this project going to install an elevator?
Yes.
Good. Any other questions? Mike, you okay?
Fine.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Y'all want me to leave this up?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
All right, is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Opposed? All right, any further questions or comments? further questions for us? Okay. Close the floor, open it up for discussion.
I'm all set. I think that once Rob brought that clarity in and identified that space, and once I understood there's two sets of steps, that I wasn't looking at stairs going in and out of space, I understand what the applicant's attempting to achieve, and it makes perfectly good sense in light of the fact they're trying to get up 18 feet in the air.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Willing to take a motion.
Did you have something else to say?
No, I'd say I would agree. The only question I have, since we're in general conversation, is the extension of the deck space of 4'10", which is that taken into consideration as part of the building structure? And that's a question that I have to staff. There is a deck space on the right side.
I know. So can I get a motion to reopen the floor? I've closed it for,
Okay.
So moved?
we have a second?
A second.
Discussion? All right, it's reopened.
I have a question
in
to
favor?
staff then.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, now it's reopened. Amy?
The deck's cantilevered around the outside, Amy. Does that project into the spaces in light of the fact that it's a cantilever and there's no covering over it? If you look at this image going
this.
on the right-hand side, there's an example, that cantilever. Are we concerned about setbacks with cantilevers?
There's not a bump out on that side, the bump out's on the other side.
Yeah, if you go to the left side, I think.
If they're,
They're moving the house
you
over.
may have to ask the applicant if this drawing includes that deck or if that's the edge of the house. I don't know that answer.
I don't believe it does. It's a-
Okay, all right,
it's a
let's
question.
have
I'll have
the
to ask them
applicant
that,
come
'cause
back
I'm not-
forward.
I'm not sure.
Okay, could you speak to that portion of the deck? Is that what we're looking at there, or?
No, it's not.
So to say it differently, the cantilever above that goes along the side of the house on the driveway side bumps out 4 feet 10 inches beyond where the current house sits.
Yes.
So our question back to you guys is that,
Yeah, if we had known that, we would have had them apply for a variance on that side as well.
so
That's
if,
why I
Hang
bring
on,
it
hang
up.
on.
Because
So-
it's not on this.
Yeah, does that extend beyond the bump out? So how far is the bump out?
Well, that bump out
1
there,
foot, that's right, thank you.
the bump out's going away because you're moving the house over to that
Yes.
line.
yes.
But then now we still have the 4'10" that's now encroaching on the other side.
Which is, yeah, further away from that adjoining property, but still encroaches into the required side yard setback.
Okay,
But does
So-
a cantilever require a
Yes.
variance? Okay.
Everything on the house.
My
So-
point of it is, Jim, is just because it's airspace, it's not physically on the ground, it's still considered part of the structure.
Part of the building.
Okay, that's the point I was
So
trying to get to.
even if it was just a balcony for mechanical.
Right.
Heating.
It'd have to be
food,
considered.
It would have to be considered.
Right. So as we're seeing it, and what we're approving is not correct.
that's right, we need to,
We would need a second variance for the,
well, we have, we
we had to find which is right and
have
left.
two options, we can,
Yes.
Yes.
So it's 4 feet.
no, it's new.
It's new structure.
So we can either take that off, that part of the deck off, and then move it over, or we're going to have to apply for a second variance.
And applying for a second variance, we'll have to schedule it for another hearing, or can we do that now?
I think we can do it now.
I'd like to apply for a second variance.
We touched on it, and you
Yeah.
took it home, thank you. All right, so can we figure out what that is? Let's not call it 4 feet 10.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Let's call it 5 feet, and not
Exactly.
worry about 2 inches.
But I apologize for this. I didn't realize that.
I don't think you were
Great
trying
call
to
out, David.
I don't think anybody was trying to circumvent the rules.
That's why we ask questions.
That's right.
Yep. Ron hit on it earlier, and we just didn't take it all the way home until Mr. Pate did.
I think the thing we're looking for here is to have as much accuracy to this information and approve it based on the correct information.
That's
And
right.
that's where we're trying to go with this, so.
So if the lot is 50 foot wide, the front of the house is 24, and it's 13.4 feet to the left property line. That leaves 12.6 feet to the right. But if they're moving the house over a foot to the right, that makes it 11,
10. How far are they moving to the right?
1 foot.
1 foot.
11.6.
So that makes it 11.6, and the deck is 4.5 feet.
4.10, but
Call it 5.
Yeah.
So that's 6.6. So they would need a variance of 6.6 feet on the right side yard that would take in account the deck.
Right.
Or it's gonna be 6.6 feet from the right side yard.
It's going to be 6.6 from the right side.
So minus 15,
Which,
8.4 feet.
okay, so what I would
Right side yard
propose is an 8-foot variance on the driveway side and a 6-foot variance on the other, so that you don't get into inches like
Right.
this.
Right. That's right. I agree.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Believe me, I'm not trying to be devil's advocate here, but if
Yes, you are.
the, if the neighbors were given information based on this variance so that they could either approve or disapprove to be here, they are unaware of this.
That's true.
Of this request,
That's
correct?
right.
So I don't see how we can do this today.
You're right. That's a great call out.
Good point. Good point.
I don't want to disappoint anybody here.
You're right.
But we have to, I think as a court, we have to do this according to the rules and regulations.
And me having a discussion with the neighbor on that side, saying she didn't care what we did, as long as I stay in the footprint.
And I understand that totally, and I would be in your same shoes, but
Right.
that the neighbor hasn't been given the right to
Exactly.
do that at this point.
All right.
Notified.
So we're,
Technically
that's,
notified as such.
we're back to the original application as presented. Have to come back before us again on the other side. And you can work with staff on scheduling that.
Or eliminate that.
Or eliminate that side. That's exactly right. All right, guys, so we're back to.
So let me ask us another question of staff, one question, Mr. Chairman. So if we approved, for example, let's say we approved this as the case was presented. I'm not trying to get the guy charged 2 fees to come before the board is what I'm asking. Can we approve this as like a Part A of this application and he submitted it and? No?
You have to do a separate application, because again, as Mr. Pate said, that the adjoining property owners weren't aware of the right side variance
So then,
request.
so he doesn't have to pay 2 fees. Can we just defer it then to next month?
Well, we still have to public notice and do the whole process. I would just stick with the application as it's in front of you and period. And they have an option of removing that side deck. Rather than postponing it, let them make that decision on what they're gonna do. Just deal with the application in front of you.
Any administrative,
Mr. Combs, I think we have to do it that way.
And just out of curiosity, we can get started and then go for that second,
You could,
and then add that if we are allowed.
if you're,
Objection by the neighbor.
right. Yeah, they can begin the project, like,
If-
And
If
assuming the board
approved,
agrees, right?
if what's before us today is approved, you can start on what's before us today.
right.
Great, okay. Thank you.
If you need another variance for something else, you have to come back.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Probably a shorter version of the presentation.
Yeah.
Because we've already been through this.
All right,
I just want to make sure the neighbors have been notified and
I think we had closed it and reopened the floor,
Yes.
if I'm not mistaken. So let's go back to any further questions, board members, to anybody else in the audience on what's before us. Okay, I'll close the floor for public hearing, open it up for discussion again.
I don't have an issue with what we're doing. I mean, we know that this area of the county was divided up in very small lots when houses were a lot smaller back then, and they're trying to do something to make, would make the improvement of the area, plus the floodplain issues with FEMA. I would suggest we approve the variance to give that additional .1, because I don't want to come back at some point because of
I agree.
an inch.
I agree.
So I would suggest we change it to 9 feet variance.
I agree with what Rob said. Just the dialogue, sometimes when we continue to ask questions, I'm also glad that for the sake of the applicant, the next door neighbor, in this court, that we were able to identify this, and to your point, David, that, given that we follow the processes accordingly. I would be remiss, and I think that we all would be, that if we approve this and then all of a sudden the neighbor forms an objection against the applicant. And I'm glad that we can have the dialogue to where everybody's on the same page, because I found it to be a trifle confusing as we're getting into that. But the fact that we picked up on that, I think was a great point, that, it came to light now instead of at a later date and time where it becomes an issue for folks after money's spent and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
So in light of what we're discussing at this moment, I would be inclined to approve this as presented.
I also would approve as presented.
All right. All right, guys, I'm ready for a motion.
Based on the evidence presented today of the lot size, what they're trying to do, the facts of the size of what's already approved because it was grandfathered in, what the evidence of how we're trying to meet FEMA guidelines, reduce damage in the future due to flooding in that area, given the restrictions also presented, and the plans presented. I believe the evidence allows me to make a motion to approve OC-19-011 because the variance will not of 9 feet variance, because it will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the vicinity, and not cause a hazard or nuisance to the public, nor an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. The variance shall only apply to the application considered at the April 18, 2019 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's been approved. Okay, Mr. Pate, would you like to read the last one?
Yeah, docket number OC 19012, an application has been filed requesting a conditional use permit for a veterinary clinic kennel, Humane Society of Oldham County, located at 2601 Interior Way, LaGrange, Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Pate. So the proposal is the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a veterinary clinic slash kennel, aka the Humane Society of Oldham County, on 7.4 acres. It is zoned IPD. The land is currently vacant, and it is a rural parcel.
And is it what?
It's a rural parcel, or what we consider classifies a rural parcel. So here we have a aerial. The parcel in red is the subject parcel. Here is the zoning around it. So to the north you have I-2 heavy industrial. To the northwest you have AG1. What's that over there? I believe to the west you have PUD. And then the light hue pink is IPD. So here, this is based off the justification statement. The proposed use complies with the comprehensive plan goals CF5, which states to provide a system of public parks, diverse facilities, open spaces and greenways that support the preservation of the county's natural and scenic resources, wildlife habitats, and serves neighborhoods and communities. So the Humane Society is a service facility that enhances the quality of life within the county. Secondly, the Humane Society also complies with objective B13, which states encourage businesses and industries employing practices and technologies to achieve the environmental life goals. Animals enhance the quality of life, and the Humane Society provides the community support to help keep animals healthy and happy. So here, these are surrounding businesses around the subject parcel. So directly to the west, you have the property that is owned by the Oldham County Fiscal Court. To the north, we have Hedges Body Shop, along with, I believe it's excavating, and they also have some heavy machinery, I believe, over there based on the aerial I saw this morning. To the east, you have the Eastern Kentucky Power Co-op or Cooperative. To the south, you have Parts Unlimited. South of that, you have the site of Future Rocket Storage number 2. On the south side of Commerce Parkway, you have the existing Rocket Storage number 1. And then just to the west of the subject property, extending all the way down to Commerce, you have Natural Products. So here are this in the next 2 slides are the conditional use standards for veterinary hospitals and kennels. We call it veterinary hospitals and kennels in our ordinance, that's why I put it up there. So as far as the number of animals is concerned, maximum number of animals shall be determined by the appropriate Board of Adjustment in accordance with the area of the kennel, the type of animal being housed by the kennel, the nature and character of the surrounding neighborhood, and guidelines of recognized organizations concerned with the breeding of animals and the prevention of cruelty to animals. The applicant shall present evidence of such guidelines to the Board of Adjustments. Second, all kennel pens, runs, and sales areas associated with the kennels shall not be located closer than 100 feet from all property lines, street right-of-way lines, except if the owner of the prospective structure owns land on the other side of the road opposite to the location of the proposed structure. Such structure need only be set back from the street right-of-way line 50 feet. All kennel pens shall be located within an approved enclosed area. And the exercise runs shall be enclosed on all sides by a site obscuring solid wall at least 6 feet in height. Lastly, odors. There shall be no objectionable odors generated by the use detectable by neighboring properties. So here we have what the applicant had submitted. So here's some things that can kind of talk about that we'll address in the site plan approval process, and I think may answer some of your questions here to the applicant. So things that we'll talk about or we'll address in the site plan approval process is parking, lighting, proposed signage, where said kennels and runs will be, a floor plan showing where the animal's going to be when they're not in the kennels, a landscape plan, site statistics, making sure that we fall within the zoning ordinance as far as floor to area ratio, size of lot, things like that. And then there's stormwater detention plans, and then there's soil and erosion plans. Those will be through the engineering department, but I just think it's helpful to have them up there. So as far as access is concerned, the proposed plat shows an existing 50-foot access and utility easement extending from Commerce Parkway to the proposed just about 6,000 square foot, 78 by 72 structure. The existing hard surface pavement extends 580 feet from Commerce Parkway, then becomes a gravel pathway. From the end of the existing hard surface pavement, the applicant is proposing an 18-foot wide paved access road leading to the proposed Humane Society building site. In 2 slides, I'll have a graphic that should be helpful. The existing paved surface from Commerce Parkway appears to be a dedicated right-of-way. After discussion with the engineering department, it has been determined that the road was built to specification, but was never accepted into the county road maintenance system. It is important to note that only 2 parcels of an allowable 3 are dependent on the existing 50-foot access and utility easement. So here we have interior way, what appears to be your dedicated right-of-way. Now, when you drive by it, it looks like a normal road, built to spec and everything like that. It extends roughly till about right there, maybe a little bit further up. Now, that's the 580 feet of existing hard surface pavement, which is also notated by this right here. So we go all the way up here, 580, and then this blue right here is your 50-foot access easement, access and utility easement. So we extend from right here, from the end of the existing pavement, all the way up, and this is how he accesses the site up here. This is right here, this road, this proposed road is the proposed 18-foot hard surface paving. Lastly, right here, there's 3 deeds, that's kind of hard to read. There's 3 deeds that call out this 50-foot access easement. So it, in fact, through research, it is not a dedicated right-of-way. And I did speak with the engineering department, so we have confirmed that. So number 1 right here, and number 2, these 2 lots are the only lots that depend on this access easement for access to a dedicated right-of-way. This lot right here has access to Commerce Parkway. This lot here has access. This lot here has access. And the Oldham County owned lot up here has access through King Drive up to this street right here. So at some future point, they could have another lot that would access off of it, but you know, that's not really part of this application, so there's no point in diving further into it at this point in time. So as far as site photos are concerned, on the bottom right, you can see where I took the picture and where it's oriented towards. So I'm standing on top of the hill, pretty close to being parallel to where the structure is going to be. So looking down this existing 50-foot access easement, and this is where he is proposing to pave. So right now it is gravel. This will be pavement if all goes well. So here I'm actually in this site now. I'm looking towards the railway, which is right here, and then the water tower is just out of sight over in this area. Here's another shot looking down into the site. I'm close to where the parking lot should be, and I'm looking south towards, I guess, the another property where it would be dependent on the access easement. Here we have the existing abandoned house, and this is where the proposed 6,000 square foot structure will be. Here I'm looking into where the proposed detention area will be based on what the applicant had submitted. So it's just a big old grassy knoll. Here I'm looking down further into the site to where that's going to be more of the unused area on the south side of the property. So in summary, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a veterinary clinic kennel on 7.4 acres. I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Questions?
I'm not sure, when I was looking through ahead of time on the conditional uses, I was listed under IPD. I was trying to figure out which one this fit under. I'm not sure that it necessarily will fit. I'm not sure it would ever be outlined in any of them, but.
If you look, it says all of the permitted uses and conditional uses in, C1, C2, C3, C4.
Okay.
So it's listed as a conditional use, and those are their zoning classifications. So therefore, it's a conditional use in IPD as well.
So if I go back to, yep, I see that listed in 210130.
Anything that's a conditional use in those zoning classifications is IPD.
Okay, so I can go to those and find that right there. Perfect.
Which one did you find it under? C1?
Yes,
All of them? Is it?
yeah. I'm looking specifically under C1, and it says veterinary hospitals and kennels. So just trying to cross-reference to make sure it all works. Trying to catch up with Mr. Pate, find those technical stuff.
Okay. Any other questions for Tom? Thank you. And if we can have the applicant come forward?
Morning.
Morning.
Ms. Ann and Mr. Culp are here. They'll need to be sworn, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
I do.
And I'm sorry, what were your names?
Obviously, this is, where'd he go? Bob Vincent.
All right, Bob?
And this is Mr. Culp. And Mr. Culp, give them your full name and your address, please.
Charles J. Culp, 3905 Meadowland Drive, Prospect, 40059.
And just for their information, how are you associated with the Humane Society?
My wife's the president. I was the treasurer. I stepped down from that because of health reasons. And, excuse me, I'm not used to doing this anymore. And right now, I do everything up there that has to do with maintenance and whatnot, but I also helped with the plans, clearing the property, getting the people up there to clear the property that was donated. And I'm dealing with Rollo Fox, who donated the property, who's donating a rather large sum of money for this project. And you name it. I still do the books.
So to summarize, you're their designated representative?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got authority to testify today about what you all are planning to do, and you're intimately aware with what you all are going to construct there and whether or not, what animals are going to be there, things like that, because those are going to be questions they're going to have.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to let you have a seat for just a minute.
All right.
I'm going to ask Mr. Vincent to come up, and obviously, Bob, state your name and address for the record, and then if you would just outline what they're proposing to do on the property.
Again, my name is Bob Vincent. I'm with Vincent Engineering and Land Surveying, 306 West Jefferson, LaGrange.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. I'm just going to go back and try to explain a little bit more about the site and the adjoining property owners, if I could. We've got the drawing on the screen that'll work out just fine. The proposed structure is going to be right there. There's an existing abandoned house that will be torn down. There are two barns roughly here and here. Those will be torn down and eliminated as well. To the north of the property is the CSX Railroad, which is higher than our property. Further north is Highway 146, and because of the railroad, you've got limited sight into this property. You can see the existing house from certain spots, but mostly it's hidden. The property immediately across the street is owned by Don Hedges with his equipment operation. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about Mr. Hedges as well, because he owns the construction debris landfill, which is immediately to our east here. The other property that is to the north is actually owned by the Kentucky State Reformatory, and Mr. Culp can explain this later, but they are a partner with the Oldham County Humane Society. The property to the west is owned by Natural Products, and I did want to point out for you, Mr. Pate, on the one drawing that was shown here in the corner, on the Oldham County PVA map, for some reason it shows that property is being owned by Oldham County Physical Court, and it's not. I'm not sure why that's on there, but Natural Products actually owns everything that is to the west of our property. The property at the northeast is owned by the Oldham County Water District, and that's the existing water tower, which as you drive by there, I'm sure everybody is familiar with. The property that is here is owned by the East Kentucky Power Cooperative, and that is the power generation plant that, again, you see from Commerce Parkway. The property that is immediately to our south is owned by Parts Unlimited Incorporated, and they are a car part manufacturing facility. Did want to speak a little bit again with what Mr. Culp said about we feel like this is a perfect spot for this, this location. The property was donated by Mr. Fox, and he is going to help in the construction or participate in the cost of construction of this. We're going to have very little impact on the adjoiners whatsoever. All of the properties to the east are actually vacant property owners. There's really not anybody that's there. The natural products to the west, again, it's a company operation. PUI, you've got the workers that come in and out there every day. The property across the street, again, is Mr. Hedges with his operation. And then there are some rental properties over here that are employees of the reformatory. All right, I want to run through a couple things real quick from the staff report. Note number one, we are proposing a new veterinary clinic which will be about 6,000 square feet on about 7.4 acres. All of the existing buildings will be demolished and eliminated. We feel like we comply with Comprehensive Plan Goal CF5. I won't read that again since we've already talked about it. Part of our justification is that we feel like we also comply with Objective BI-1-3. We will be constructing an 18-foot access paved road, which begins about right here, and it'll continue north along the property line in the 50-foot easement and come back into where we access the building. This drive will be, the purpose of this drive will be to access this building only. Natural Products has an existing gravel drive that's to the west, and they have heavy equipment that travels on that gravel driveway, and they have no desire or reason to travel on our paved roads. And we also want to keep the two uses separated, because you've got industrial, and then you're going to have the general public that's going to be coming back to the Humane Society building. I'm going to skip over a little bit about the number of animals that'll be there. I'll let Mr. Culp explain that. The Humane Society is an animal hospital. It's not a kennel. So there will not be any pens or any kind of dog runs constructed on this property. So everything that's being addressed there really isn't applicable. And the odors, since there's no outside storage of animals, there really shouldn't be any odors. Any animals that might be housed overnight are inside the building. And that's everything we have to present.
Mr. Cole, come on up here, and I'm going to lead you through here a little bit about those other questions, okay?
Okay.
So you have explained to me when we met that the Humane Society deals in two types of animals, correct? Cats and dogs.
Yes.
We're not talking about deer. We're not, somebody hits a deer on the side of the road, they're not bringing it to you all.
No.
You're not talking about any kind of wild animals of any kind. Those are the two animal types that you all generally have, yes?
Yes.
Not birds, not goldfish, not guinea pigs, none of that stuff, right?
No horses, nothing like that.
Okay. And you further have a partnership with the Kentucky State Reformatory about the dogs.
Yes.
Okay, so on site, as I understand it from you, there will be cats located on site.
Yes.
And those range in number from how many to how many would you estimate?
Right now, we have 30.
And
We're trying to get it down to 20.
And that's in your existing structure?
Yes.
And they're all located inside the structure?
They're all indoor cats.
And you are not breeding these cats?
No.
These cats are brought to you, feral cats, what have you. Somebody's dropped the cat off. They don't want the cat anymore. They bring it to you all, and you all are trying to find a home for that cat.
Yes.
And any animal that comes into you, if it has not already been spayed or neutered, is that something that you all cause to be happen?
Yes.
So that is one of the veterinary services that takes place on site.
Yes.
Same thing with any dog that is brought to you. If that dog is not spayed or neutered, you all are gonna have that performed.
Yes, sir.
You all do not breed any animals of any kind.
No.
You're not in the business of having a puppy mill or a cat mill or any of those kinds of things.
No.
Okay. Will there be occasions when there will be dogs that will spend the night at the property?
Yes.
And can you explain the circumstances of that, and then where the dogs generally are kept?
Okay. We have 20 dogs right now at Kentucky State Reformatory. The prisoners train them, and they're put up for adoption. And every week they're brought, several of them are brought to Feeder Supply, who donated a section of their building, put in everything for us, and we pay someone to be there on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to help facilitate the adoption of these dogs and cats. So at times, we have to replace a dog that's been adopted, and we have to reach out to our various, like animal control right here in Oldham County, Owen County, Shelby County. We'll reach out to them for adoptable dogs. And if they come in unfixed, we will schedule them to be either spayed or neutered. And normally they spend a night. You can't just send them into the prison. Sometimes it's beyond the time that you can take a dog in there. And we can't keep them there beforehand because if we do, we may not be able to get them out. Sometimes they have lockdowns, but they don't necessarily ever take a dog that's not spayed or neutered into the prison. So they'll spend one night with us, and once that does, and during the day, the next day, we get them into the prison, assign them to a handler, and the handler takes care, make sure he doesn't tear any staples out, that he doesn't start bleeding. Sometimes when they neuter them, their sac will start bleeding inside. So they keep an eye on that, and if that happens, we pull them out, we take them to the veterinarian, which is normally Crestwood Animal Hospital.
And the Humane Society is a not-for-profit.
And we're not for profit. We exist solely on donations. We do charge a low fee to some of the rescue groups, which is almost basically our cost. And then for the individuals that can't afford to get it done, they'll schedule, we usually have 3 or 4 clinics during the month.
Okay, and you have on-site veterinary services that are performed, that are donated, I think, right?
We don't normally have a veterinarian there unless there's a clinic.
Okay, and so if there's a spay or neuter clinic, the vet will come in and perform those services
Yes, sir.
On your site.
Yes.
And then if there's something that's maybe more complicated with an animal, that you all might transport the animal, say, to Crestwood Animal
Yes.
Hospital.
Yes.
And they'll take care of the animal there.
Yes.
When the animal's well, the animal will come back to you all.
Or to the individual who brought it.
Okay.
It could, we got one the other day where the person actually lived in Henry County. They had a feral cat that was torn up pretty good. So we had them transport it down. They had it in the back of their truck to Crestwood Animal Hospital. And they had to sign that over. Had the cat been fixable, it was in really bad shape, we would have tried to find a barn for it. And they call them barn cats. They'll mouse that barn, and they usually do a very good job. But feral cats don't normally make a very good pet. So any feral cat that we get, and we have people go around the whole county, they trap them. If they don't have a notch in their ear, they'll bring them in, we'll get them fixed, keep them for the night, take them back the next day to the colony that they came from. They will not reproduce. And that's how we try to keep the colonies down. But there is no charge for them. Sometimes we'll get a grant from certain groups to perform those, but if we don't have it, we just do it anyway. That's what we use some of the excess money that we get from performing the low-cost spay-neuter.
So you all are basically in the business of trying to help control the animal population?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I think that's all that we have. That's our presentation, and I'm sure you all may have some questions for either Mr. Culp or Mr. Vincent.
Okay, thank you, guys. Questions?
I have one. Where are you currently operating from, and will you be vacating that upon this being constructed and put in operation?
Right now, we're at Cherry House Furniture. One of their structures they donated, I don't know, 10 years ago. And like I said, we've got one 5-pound Chihuahua there right now. He came in, he wants to eat everybody. Somebody dumped him. And so we're trying to acclimate them to people and try not to chew everybody up that tries to handle them. But, go ahead.
His other question for you was, will you all be vacating that premises?
Yes. Well, see, that's the reason why we had to find another structure, because they've got 5 acres next to the building, and they want to lease that 5 acres. And we almost had to get out this year, but the person backed out. They were going to take that 5 acres, and I can't remember what they were going to plan on doing with it, but they wanted the building that we were in to run their business out of while they were building their building on that 5 acres. Are y'all know where Cherry House? We're in a red brick right next to it.
So this will give you a permanent home.
This place would be our permanent home. Yes. And I'm sorry if I don't answer the questions right. My hearing's really bad.
That's what you got me for.
Thank you.
The triangle kind of shape out to the right, and there's I can't read what that is. What is that over there to the right
That's
side?
the detention pond.
The detention basin will actually be in this area here. That triangle is just the way the property's shaped.
Yeah, but what's the curve in there? I can't read.
That's the dam for the detention basin.
Perfect, okay.
And real quick, I didn't mention this in my presentation, but we've got all these requirements here on the left-hand side of the screen right here. That's what we'll be handling and as a part of the site plan, that I'll be preparing the construction plans as an engineer. That'll be submitted to the county engineer and be approved before any kind of construction occurs.
And obviously, you all can restrict us to this kennels and runs. You can say that there won't be any outside kennels and runs.
When you come up to the property from the south off of Commerce Parkway, you're on this road, and it appears it goes through Natural Products property because they have 2 gates on this road. What's going to happen to those gates?
Guys from Natural Products, he may know the answer.
You'll need to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Name and address.
Craig Arnold, 7613 Commonwealth Drive, Crestwood, 40014.
Okay. All right, you heard the question about the gates and the road.
Yes, I'm the general manager of Natural Products. The owner couldn't be here at this time. With the gates, I've talked with the Humane Society, and we're waiting for them to tell us when we find out what they plan to do as far as their access, fences, gates. We're going to work to accommodate them and relocate what we have to. So, and the other thing is we have, the Humane Society asked that I state that we have no objection. It's a good project. We're for it. The only thing is, provided that any road extensions, we're not responsible for the cost of those, because we really can't use, because of our equipment, trucks, we can't use the road and would not want to use the road because we would probably destroy the paved road.
Okay, thank you.
And we totally understand that. We've got plenty of room for our access.
Okay, other questions? Traffic-wise, just talk to me a little bit about your expected traffic flow. So I understand the number of cats and dogs. First of all, that's all that we're talking about are cats and dogs. I understand 20 to 30 cats, approximately 20 dogs, most of which are in the reformatory. You have a few overnight. So I understand, what was initially laid out. Talk to me a little bit about what your expectation is for traffic.
The traffic will come in solely from Commerce Way, and we'll have, what is it? We have a 30-foot access?
Yeah, I think he's more concerned with traffic, how many cars in and out during the course of a day.
I was going to address that.
all right.
And we're going to take it right up just inside the property line and over to the parking area. And that traffic could possibly be 40 to 50 cars going in to drop animals off, and then later on coming back to pick them up. On their normal days, there won't be any more than 5 to 10 cars using it all day long. And that would be just the volunteers coming in to help keep, clean the cats. And during a clinic, of course, we've got the clients bringing in their animals. Owen County is a heavy user. They may bring 10 to 15 animals in 2 or 3 vehicles. But in a lot of cases, they stagger the people at their arrival times, and they bring them in and they're gone, and then someone else comes in and they're gone. So there's not going to be any congestion. Now, at first they were talking about bringing them in off of 146 over the railroad tracks, and we nixed that right away. I mean, it's not safe, and it's not a very good idea. But this will work really well.
Okay.
I mean, our address is Interior Way.
Okay.
So
All right.
I hope that answered your
It
question.
did, thank you.
Okay.
So as I understand, you work in harmony with Oldham County Animal Control, is that correct?
We do, yes. I would say, and they bring a lot of animals up that they put up for adoption for us to spay and neuter. So they are one of our users. And then we go down and we'll go through their kennels and look what's there. And if a dog looks like it's not too aggressive, then most of the time, those are our first selections to go into the prison. An awful lot of, we've worked in Harmony for, I would say, since, I think it was like '09 when we first started working with them. At first, we were in the firehouse in Buckner there that they tore down. We did the clinics there.
How many employees?
Right now, we have a part-time employee that schedules all of the people coming in, and then there's a partial, no, she's probably part-time too, that does a lot of our paperwork. Now, my wife, she's got paperwork coming out of her ears, so this only helps her. And then there's like 2 or 3 part-time employees over here at Feeder Supply for during the hours of operation, so that when people walk in, they want to see the animals, and they also walk the animals when they get there, walk them during the day, and walk them at night.
But am I to understand for this facility, you're talking about possibly 2 part-time employees?
Yes,
at this
for sure.
At any given time?
But we've got like 30 or 40 volunteers. The people just love coming.
Yeah.
The other day, we had too many people during a cat clinic.
Based on your current business model, do you anticipate business as usual at your new location, or do you anticipate an increase in activities?
I don't really anticipate an increase in activity, but it might be. I mean, especially with the other rescue groups. For a while, we were doing a lot of rescue groups in Louisville, but then I think it was Kentucky Humane opened up another clinic up. If I'm not mistaken, it's on the Gene Snyder, but I don't know that for sure. But I think it's on the Gene Snyder, back over near. I think it's called Eastgate. Is it over there?
If I may
it's on the
interrupt
other
you.
side of the street.
If I may interrupt you then, so then what you're saying is you anticipate kind of business as usual based on activities and traffic, and therefore the size of the facility and the parking spaces has been taken into consideration based on what you can assess that your
Yes.
needs are.
Yes. Right now, Cherry House lets us use anything, any place on their property. Jeep, I don't know if you're aware of Jeep and Shirley and Steve. They've got some of our animals. They've adopted some of the cats, but they've been fantastic.
But you haven't had a parking issue in light of the fact that you do staggered drop-offs and
Not
pickups
at
as
all.
well, is what I'm hearing you say.
Our facility will be gated at night, and the volunteers, it'll be a punch code. Our volunteers will be able to have access to get in there at night. We've got people that go in and clean cats, sometimes until 10 o'clock. And they get together, they have a Coke or coffee or whatever, and they sit down and shoot the bull, and sometimes I hang around with them.
All right, I don't think I heard signage. Did I miss that?
No.
Or lighting, and so can you, either one of you, talk to me about signage and lighting?
Well, course, we'll have lighting all the way up to the property, and the property will be lit for security reasons. We'll have security cameras. And the gate will be down at the bottom of the property. As far as signage goes, we just put up a small sign, everybody finds us. And, I mean, since it's only going to be an access here at the south end, right behind PUI, we'll probably have a sign on our fence right there.
And obviously, we have to comply with the ordinance, and that's one of those matters that staff had indicated has to be worked out at the construction phase.
Very good, thank you. Okay. Further questions?
But just for the record, they're going to hit 19,000 spay neuters this year. So they worked their butts off.
In 1 year?
No. Since we've been up.
Okay.
So they do about 1,500 a year.
Okay.
They're not doing humans, too.
They've tried to put me up on the table several times.
I was like, wait a minute.
But I can still
missing
run.
something.
I can still run. The girls have threatened me with that 100 times.
I think we better stop.
For the ladies.
Yeah, we're being recorded. We probably want to
All
stop.
right.
I probably led us down a bad path there, Mr. Caldwell.
All right, further questions? Okay, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff. In the potential conditions, it was put in here about the site landscaping plan. Is that something special we need to do? And then there's also the one freestanding monument sign as suggestions for conditions. Are those something that we need to do special, or are those already covered in other areas?
No, they'll submit a site plan, and we'll just make sure it falls within the ordinance.
So to be clear then, a site plan and landscaping plan, they have to have that before they get a building permit anyway.
Correct.
It's nothing special that we need to do as part of a thing.
Correct.
All right, and
That's typical.
And then on the monument sign, the size and limitations, again, that's already defined.
Yes,
Okay,
that is
so-
correct.
Perfect,
Yeah, they'll just have to meet the minimums and the maximums.
perfect.
All right. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the application? Opposed? All right, Barry, or you guys, any further comments, questions, discussion?
Let the matter stand submitted, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, thank you. Questions for anybody else, board members? Okay, I'll close the floor, open it up for discussion.
I have no problem with the proposal whatsoever. I think it'd be a great asset to this community.
I think the,
That testimony I just gave?
I don't know. They're on the edge. Okay,
I think based on the testimony we've heard, that they're in a temporary situation, that they need a permanent home. I think the core of the testimony too is that this fits into the surrounding area. In other words, it's not the kind of thing where it's going to be bothering the surrounding people. They're not building this in the middle of a neighborhood or something. And they've presented what they're going to do and how they're going to do it and what they're not going to have and the limitations of what they're going to be doing in terms of just cats and dogs. So I don't have any issue.
so, in the ordinance itself, it lays out a lot of the regulations for signage and lighting, and landscape was in there, and et cetera. What's not in there, and I think what Barry pointed out, was the number of kennels and runs and the number of animals that we can have on property at any given time. Testimony was given, there are 30, right now, roughly approximately 30 cats. They would like to reduce it. Dogs in and out, most of which don't stay on site. Do we want to consider those things in our motion as far as conditions of approval? We talked about Barry and the applicants talked about no kennels and runs on outside of the property, and then, obviously we can limit the number of animals.
I think, in my opinion, it's kind of almost self-regulating. I don't think they want too many.
Well, I agree.
And in terms of, they have they're not in a postage stamp site. They've got 7 acres, frankly, that they're on. And if, let's say there was a natural disaster or something where there was a lot of things going on where they suddenly had to increase the number of what they do because of an outstanding situation, my opinion is that it would be more self-regulating, and I don't see a need for something. I understand the question.
Yeah, okay, I think I'm in total agreement with you, especially given the area and what's around the area. You know, if it were residential, it might be something, you know, different, but given the fact that we have natural products down the street and, or adjacent to them, and, yeah, I mean, I think I'm in agreement.
I think it's a great question to ask, though.
Anything else, comments?
As an opinion, and this is in question too, I think putting a quantity on it, a reasonable quantity on it, may be a good idea because, you know, what if there's 5,000 cats there? I mean, a little facetious here, but, you know, if we don't put any control on it, then it can be anything. Do we say no more than 100 animals on site at any given time? Do we put some kind of control on it where there is some recourse? If they exceed that, they can always come in front of this court and ask for additional, correct?
Why don't we ask the applicant what a good number would be?
I don't want to limit what they're doing because I think.
No, yeah, but right here in the ordinance, I'm reading section
Very positive.
260-440 of the Oldham County that gives us instructions here to set those numbers. As I read this, and you're right.
To Rob's point, they're almost going to be self-regulating. I think that looking more as the no housing of exterior of animals would somewhat take care of itself, would it not? I don't know.
And I see both points, but I'm saying if we don't put a limit on it, then it could be anything.
Yeah, but how does that stop the crazy cat lady down the road from having 50 cats in her home? You know what I'm saying? I think it's somewhat of a self-regulating issue. I don't think you can put 5,000 cats in a 5,000 square foot building. Well, maybe one could, but I don't know.
So this is a business that we control.
That's correct.
That's the
But I
difference
think
between
that
the crazy
going
cat
back to what Barry said about the kennels and runs, I think that, in that application has merit because we're not storing animals outside, going back to a potential catastrophe. Are they going to then maybe in a catastrophe making makeshift kennels and runs because we didn't regulate that? But maybe that's a question for the applicant regarding the
I
animal
was
count.
also going on self-regulating because based on the testimony was that they're not even trying to have them overnight if possible. I mean, it's part of what their mission part was.
I
So.
see both sides, I really do.
The regulation states the maximum number of animals shall be determined by the appropriate board of adjustments in accordance with the area of the kennel, which they said they're not having. The type of animals to be housed by the kennel, again, they're not having a kennel. The nature and character of the surrounding neighborhood, which they've explained, and the guidelines of recognized organizations concerned with breeding of animals, which they're not doing, and the prevention of cruelty to animals. It says the applicant shall present evidence of such guidelines to the Board of Adjustments. So they're not having kennels, according to their testimony. Which would be the reason for the number of animals that you're going to house, because that's what kennels do, is house the animals, which they're not housing.
That's a valid point.
For the cats, correct, yes.
All right. All right, just to be safe, let's open the floor back up, get them back up. Let's propose a number that everybody's comfortable with, and just to be safe, we can go ahead and put that on the record. Can I get a motion to open the floor?
Have a motion open the floor.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, floor's open. If we can,
Let me ask Jim a question. This is not a kennel operation, period.
No.
Hospital operation.
That's-
Is there a distinction between that and the conditional use section?
Well, just the only distinctions are what Amy just read and what was in the Tom's staff report in the beginning.
well, I think he's waiting for a question from us, right?
Well, I don't want to, I mean, somebody said 100, and that's a lot. That's probably way more than they're ever going to have. But if you need a number, we'd take 100.
All right.
You're offering, we're taking it.
All right.
Well, let me ask one other question. We have several veterinary practices in this county. We have a veterinary hospital, we have a lot of, when those, are there limits to the animals that they can have?
Well, those are conditional uses as well, so I'm going to say that the answer is yes.
Do they have numbers defined that, do they have a limit number placed on them?
Based on the conditional use application, yes. And
Yeah,
how-
yeah. Just to be safe, I mean, we've thrown out 100, it's 7+ acres. Applicants are saying way more than they can possibly imagine. I suggest we go ahead and throw the number out there.
Works for the applicant, so
Works for
sure.
the applicant.
I
Makes
think you
people
just
feel
need to
better,
put
whatever.
it to rest, because I don't think they're intending to have that many, but
Right.
go ahead. Yeah.
We good?
Yeah, good.
All right, any other questions before I close the floor?
So, yeah, this is more of a question of, so the limit, we're saying a limit, so a condition of approval would be that they would be limited to no more than 100
I would
animals
say-
or dogs and
No,
cats?
no, animals. It just, no kennels and runs outside, no more than 100 animals. All right, I need to close the floor. Any other comments, questions before I do that? All right, I'm closing the floor. Back in general discussion. Any other comments?
The facility shall be limited to 100, what did we say? Animals? Okay.
Any other?
If you want a little more flexibility on that, you could say on a continuing basis. Or you could just leave it where it is.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I say just leave it. All right, anything else? I'm ready for a motion.
Move to approve OC-19-012, based on the testimony of the need presented of what they have been doing and the thousands of animals they have been able to affect positively to control the animal population in our county, the evidence that they need a permanent home because they're in a temporary that they could have actually have lost, and they need to get to one like that. The evidence that the surrounding area, the businesses and other entities surrounding where they're proposing to build it seems like a reasonable integration into our area. Move to approve because it's essential and desirable and not in conflict with the elements, objectives, and policy of the comprehensive plan. And the community has a need for such a facility and the benefits to the community. Conditions of approval are the facility shall be limited to 100 animals at any point in time. The conditional use permit for the veterinary clinic kennel shall only apply to the application considered at the April 18, 2019 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing.
We have a second? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? It's been approved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Get rid of it.
All right, minutes, let's do that next. Are there any changes to the minutes? All right, can I get a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from last month as they are presented here today. The minutes dated Thursday, March 21st, 2019.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, minutes approved. Other business? The only thing I've got is training. Jim had mentioned potential training for the FEMA grant. I think, or maybe just he said discussion, and I picked
Well,
up
we
on.
would do
what's the
that on
training?
a day that we had a short agenda, we could do training on that as well.
Okay.
We will have a public meeting on April the 25th. You should have received an email as well as a letter from me in the mail. You'll probably get a follow-up email this week, and you'll probably get a follow-up email next week. It's April 25th at 6 p.m. at the John Black Center. It's all of the changes to the proposed changes to the comprehensive zoning ordinance, which you all use every time we're in this room. So it talks about lighting standards, sign regulations, landscape regulations, barrel warehouses and distilleries, which would come before you guys. If it's not part of a zoning change, they would be conditional use permits, which would come before this board. So that is on April 25th again, at the John Black Center at 6 o'clock. If you do attend, we'll have a sign-in sheet. You will get training hours for that as well. We've already received 2 applications for next month, so we will have a meeting next month. So if you have any reason that you will not be here, please email me and let me know if you will not be in attendance. And then finally, Saturday from 12 to 4, the Humane Society of Oldham County is doing a Friends and fashion show. It's a fundraiser for a great organization that I will be participating in. So come out and see everybody dressed up with their pets. There's food and everything else. So
Where is it?
it's at City Place.
And what time?
It's from 12 to 4. The fashion show starts at 2.
12 to 4, I'm sorry, what date? I didn't get it written
It's
down.
this Saturday.
Amy, do you have an idea how long the meeting will be on the evening of the 25th? Is there a set?
I'm hoping no more than 2 hours. Maybe an hour, depends on how much public participation we have. The first like 5 or 6 items are just grammatical changes, and those were actually approved back in 2016 or recommended for approval, but they never made it on the final sheet. So we have to go back through and like I said, it's just grammatical changes of changing director to administrator, things of that nature. The topics that will take the majority of the time, I feel most likely will be the distilleries and barrel warehouses.
Okay, thank you.
So can we see those changes, proposed changes, so we can get prepared for the meeting?
Yes, it's in the letter and it's in the email as well. There's a link. If you click on that link, it has all of the topics broken down, and it has, and they're all redlined. The only one that's not redlined is the barrel warehouses and distillery and the new zoning classification for AG2, because those are brand new regulations that we've never had. So obviously there's no red line to those, but everything else is redlined to see, so you can see what the changes are.
Perfect.
How do we get those, all the video training things, the 1-hour videos? Where are those? How do we get to them?
There's a link that I sent out through an email. If you don't still have that email, I can go back through and get
Could you?
that and send that back out for those.
Could you please?
That'd be great.
Yep. And then just send me an email and tell me, let me know the date and the video that you watched, and I'll add it to your training schedule.
All right.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.